I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teaching, and the spiritual community. By the merit of the teachings, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teaching, and the spiritual community. By the merit of the teachings, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teaching, and the spiritual community. By the merit and the teachings, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings. So we have a number of questions this morning, and there's a question here. At what point on the path does a practitioner have the realization of subtle impermanence?
Where is that? I didn't get that question.
That's from Trini. Yeah. Then, midakma tramo di lam gom du gadu midakma tramo di kasa lunsum du dogide.
Midagba Tramote Sigara. Midagba Tramote, Lam Gudu. Tachidan Chelling as a teaching Metas Chudu teaching Metatung Tonta Mestre. Metas Chudu Captive Tramusina, Tonlam de Capsto Yora. Yina Midagba Tramurandong was some to talk about the Cholam that in the Capso Yeshe some Yoda. Tongbaning was some to talk about it, Tonglam Mado Yamara.
The realization of subtle impermanence is really indicated in the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths, impermanence and so forth. So although we usually say that the subtle impermanence is what you have a direct perception of subtle impermanence when you attain the path of seeing, it seems to me that it would be possible to have that kind of direct realization of impermanence on the path of preparation. Certainly on the path of seeing, you have the direct realization of emptiness. Does the practitioner cultivate it specifically, or is it a natural result of meditating on dependent arising? Kasa mitakpa tramo de la gom gore de kasa dendra la gomna dene de shula yongere be de shugla hagogere de gagide de kasa
Midaba Tramo de Comgorwa. Comde Comgorwa. Tende, Judan Kela, Tene, Delva Chunga, Tele, Tene, and Midaba Tramo de Hagora. Judan Kela, Tene, Kubing, Juroshen, and the Kotico Yora. Zako Kichi Chiga, Manjurja Yomara. Jurjan Dogo Yora. Or the Indico Midaba in the Rangachi Sigua. Ranga Kabri, Judan Ken Sauce on the coach, Judan Ken Mason, Yomara. Or the Indico, Judan Ken, attention to Ever and Junko Yude, and Eco Kichi Kichil Kun Jurache Yora. Attention to Judan Ken, attention to Ever and Joan Latene, and the Midaba to Congora. Judinguang con Jurgius and Judinguang Congo Toguyora, Jaguara. Kiendico Judinguang in Jurguyora.
You have to specifically meditate on subtle impermanence. Subtle impermanence, though, is approached through analyzing the, or critically analyzing the dependent arising of cause and effect. That in the dependent arising of cause and effect, then it becomes clear that it can't. The unfolding of cause and effect, there can't be any, anything that stays. So then, that stays for a moment. So then, when you're analyzing on cause and effect and seeing how cause and effect are related and evolve or process, or the process of cause and effect, then you can understand subtle impermanence.
Give tengi mirik batena tangi sheba konse. Sulang samba ngarazu miri samba shiteora. Michen samba michen dead sigora. Sulang samba shejo. Semdi keji leshemes. Semdi ko keji gyurduwa. Samlude. Tandachi samgeri yanshanda samgeri. Manjurji tegmedwa. O tina shangarazu samba de gyurku yore sugora. Semdi keji. Give tengi mere bangarazu te haku mare sigora. Ko nganzo sambache de ko soso sobo tang nang sa da long da chi long da khala da chi mangbo chil tene sambache de gura chi long jong la tene chogura nang khala sa da sa da long da de zo ganga ge lega chen sambache de yora o ti de ko lung ko do khala sa ko do u tang ko do chi de ko te ma chen sambache de yo mara ti chi sa ju melong ge jong nang ge jong kanga le te chen de ko tanda sombuchi deagdo. Teaching mandina sombu deato mando. Tiende ko gyudan ken la tiene ko sombu ya ke ko de ko keji ya ke ko do. Nima sombuchi gyudan ken ke keji de tawa rangja dege yune ne mashibshi deagda.
There's a quote here in the earlier chapters of the 400 verses, where Aryadeva says, when we know that we are something like it, when we say that we are living, I think, then this is much like the momentariness of the mind. What's being indicated here is that when you look at the mind it's never stays the same for a moment. You can understand the mind is constantly in a state of flux. We're thinking about this, and then the mind goes there, and then it's never staying, still. Or what do you say? It's never staying without change. So then, let's see. So then, that's an analogy then for our life, our living. That when we say we're alive, okay, we just sort of say, "Oh, I'm alive," but we don't think of all the constant external and internal causes that are maintaining our life. There's so many different. There's a complex of many different causes and conditions that are constantly taking place. We have to eat. We have to breathe. Our nervous system is operating. We have the the breathing, it constantly has to be maintained, and externally we need the resources provided by the four elements, and internally we also have the four elements constantly providing us, constantly keeping us alive. And so then it's a constant process of change based on many different causes and giving rise to effects.
Keji chin junga da nangin junga tezu utan che ya choko sombuchi degu do o deko gyugi ya tanda ya sombuchi degi gyugi chen dogora da ngama ya gyudan kengi ya sombuchi kesu na ane sombu kora degi yo na gyuchema gyugu mena ane nganzu shigi marwa be degi kepsan ragra
So what do you say? When we say we're alive, and maybe that's a good way to translate it. It's just like we have all these constant causes and this complex of causes and conditions, constantly keeping us alive. Then. And then, if it were the case that we, let's say, if it were the case that we just sort of come alive and then just stay that way, and then we wouldn't die, then there wouldn't be any death, right? That would be pretty good.
Oh yeah. Dina shin ba ngo kanga jibara chi shin do ngo tendi degdo medo inanda kanga yendo ka chi shin do ngo bus degdo ko gyudan ke sa chu melong junga kanga teni ko kadu degora ngele yabo chi kebate jema gyum go che degyo ne ko medo de ne nigu marwa yabo chi degdo tabar chi degdo shin ngombo de lomar jina ngo tendi de one chu yongore chi sa Juan Sabushita Megura Tada Gormado, Juan Chigmana Koshin Ganga Kamrure, Tegmare, or Chumana in it, Chuyandra Mani Umara, Sako Kechi Yako, Chumbuchi Deura, Maranzu Jungoting Saje, Kessin and Mobi Tiran Desha, some Gura, Dunjins and Hako, your Tangzichi Yora. Oh, this Samlatana could do not think I could. Kechi keku yora. Debi yenda kangba yenda dawara. Shida be chawa shuk chimbu chene dega de kanga shigdo re. Shida changbu chene yang chig digi maro ko de tu marwa. O tiende ko chi sa ju melonda nangi koran de yebe. Tezu kanga le te shin treni tanda ya keku yora. De mara zine ti ha ko ngema yebe de tanda yebe sam yora. Tangema yebe tanda yone tanda yebe de mahumba de gre ne. So
it's the same for external phenomena like trees and flowers and so forth. If you, when you think about it, they need a complex of many causes and conditions that constantly maintain it, and if one of those, elements, this is based on the four elements. Then, if any of the four elements say there's no water, then the trees just wither. So then, so that everything is constantly in a state of unfolding with all these different causes and conditions, and it's a constant dependent arising of all these different causes and conditions, giving rise to effects, the effects becoming causes and giving rise to further effects, and so this in a constant and it's constantly momentary changing. If it were like the way we perceive it, we sort of say, oh, yesterday the trees are nice and everything looks green, and then you wake up the next day and you think, oh yes, everything's still green, if it was, we have this view of permanence. It's just we grasp at permanence, if you will, then if it were the case that things were permanent the way we're grasping at them, then they'd never wither and die, or we'd never die, and so forth. But that's not the case. That they're in this constant state of change, and
that's why. Jagalia, Sawa Chambuchidu. Jagalia, Sawa Chambuchidu, Sawa Sawa Jagdoa. Sawa Sawa Jadus and me, I'm Jonal, Sawa Sawa Dona, Michigdo Namsa. Karas in a cold lumbachi, Chuchiga, Juanji Kuyari. This are the day to your Marwa. This Hawa de Chuchambu de come to the Colonel Chu Juakazuku, made any Shindoa. Namsa Rindoa. Oh, didn't Shin Dozula Luja, Shinkasha did. Habat Savage a cold tree, Juma Koede, come to the Kokam Doda. Tungu Nimanis of the Pakam Doda. Which is a cold thing, and so such a million Juma Kangal 13 day order. And around there, some Shibu Tabu, some the Sambutuade. She enjoys such a million Juma Kangal Tugura. Tamu Shibu Jana and another Chakwacha do there. They never called on the Chakwacha, those there. Kangri doesn't drink and made those the Chigua. Kangri Tamushi died to the Pelia. And then don't but we charge it. And the Kujo Mato 10 dash it, there's Tabajam do. So I called you then can't do over there. Tugua, Tanda Julian Tugua, change one nugget, the legacy and Tugua. Catching my Tisiora. You then can't in the Kogi show. Yes, Saturday day, your mother. Yes, Saturday day, you need to give me that was a make on that was Shandu.
So we can in India there's this it's a phenomena that we're not familiar with, but it's an environmental phenomena that arises where a very hot wind blows, and people have to they wrap their heads in order to prevent the hot wind from going in the ears. If it goes in the ears, you immediately, what it tends to, it dries things up so that people will just keel over unconscious, and so then there's many instances like that where you see that that we're really dependent upon certain elements, and then so that's an instant where you're just losing the water element, and the same thing that happens to trees. Trees will like shrivel. The leaves will shrivel in 3 days of this hot wind. So then you also see it when people go up the mountains in Tibet. If they don't properly protect themselves, and they're exposed to the cold, and the cold makes them, they get more and more frozen and kind of just fall asleep and die. Then so it's not a case that we're just sort of that things are produced and then they stay without any causes and conditions. If that were the case, then nothing would disintegrate, we'd never die. But it is the case that once produced, then there's a constant dependent arising of causes and conditions that have to maintain a house or a person or whatever it might be, a tree and so forth, and books, and everything is like that. It's constantly maintained by causes and conditions, primarily the four elements.
No, that and that chi junga chajang la soba, lung la soba kanga le te chi den sambu te ko do ko. Sambu te ko do, ti chi man din ne te me do. So ju dan ken le ten ko tan chi yo ba ke chi yo ro chi be de. She to go do ma.
So we can understand just by contemplating this that momentary impermanence that we need a certain temperature and we need water and so forth, and that these are constantly providing us with the causes to live, and then if we contemplate that, then certainly we can come to an understanding of subtle impermanence. In addition to the 9-point death meditation and meditation on dependent arising, does J. Rinpoche outline a specific method to develop this realization? What are Geshe-la's suggestions for bringing reflection on subtle impermanence into our meditation in our daily life? Because Chiwi me dapa gomchul chi yode did zasum da gumse gu did then a young dendralgi denjing drapa jungwe de gugenki dendral de young gom yode then gom tang chi yode yinian gom J. Rinpoche gom tang shenda chi because kechik ki mitapa gom tang shenda chi yang shegi yode be then again de young Gomtan chi sheya yube de kasa kechigi kasa mitapa tramo de Gomtan shendachi yang sheya yube de.
No, te tanda she sa so tu dan ken le tene kechi le ko ke ko do. Cheza kechi ngama de ko jun ro do. Ngama yube de chimal de me do. Kechi tambu de manjur che kechi jik de ro chene te ni de gre sume de gre ne pe de gra. So ko kechi jur ko do. O di she gyo ra.
Yeah, what the
Kang chung se ke ta ni che te tam chen gag be chue chen no san je song do. Kang gyu dan ken le ten ke wa chi yin chen je te le ya te tam je ko ke ji ge ji ne jik be rang shi chen gag be rang shi che re song do.
The Buddha said that whatever is produced in dependence upon causes and conditions is subject to disintegration. And so then what I've already mentioned then is the way to meditate on subtle impermanence, where you're investigating causes and conditions and coming to an understanding that nothing can stay for a moment. Actually, if it stays for a moment, then that means it's static, and it'll stay for 2 or 3, or continue to stay. But once it's produced by cause and effects, that it doesn't stay for a moment. So if you meditate in that way, then you'll come to an understanding.
Chiwa medaba stu samba medaba da sigwara. Chiwa medaba stu samba medaba. Samba je de ko ke ngama samba je de chema de ma re sigwara. Keji ke ko samba ku ku yora. Teni chin di ma so ne ko chiwa le nyer je chiwa le yong yora. Samba medaba chiwa medaba. Tanda nga she ba sula samba she cha samba ke ji le she me se. Tanda de she jamba.
In the 9-point meditation, it's usually in the Tibetan it says the impermanence of death. It's really the impermanence of life. What you're understanding is that that there are many causes and conditions that make it possible for us to live, and then when we don't have those, then that's when we're going to die. So that takes care of one. Here. I'm a bit stuck on describing these relationships clearly. You said regarding permanent, unitary, and independent that refuting one, you refute all. The Dakchi Rawang Chen, the Kaza Keche Sum, then it Dila Chik the Gapa Gyamna, then it Shenda Nibala Gapa Gyage the bed, they did a bed, did some gi drawa de Yabo Rang Hagoma songs, did Sharonang, de Kazas Sum Da Chik Rangwan Chengi drawa did, and then Chik la Gagna, then it Tamche Gage the bed.
No, Chik Kagwache Sum Tamche Gandu the Sura.
No, they did, what?
They did no matter. They Kagmara. Tagba Sidu Manjurche, then get the Tagba Sigora. Tatagba Sigora. Ludi Mitapare Matosi, Tadi Tagba Rese, Kadin and Jikbayoma Sigora.
Man,
the Tagba Sigora. Kichiki, Jikba Michigan, Euro Michigan. Kangiran Shinjing, but Delacan and Dutch just Castle of Samba. Euro Machiko Tabuka Theory. Pumbu to the Conegam Duran Jurachigora. Sako Tagba Sigora. Chibusu Zanko Chache Maverich Sigora. Chache Maverich. Kurang Mother Chache Maverich, Chibusuga, Chama Chibusuga, Tachami Sigora. Kashakashi Kangal kept there Sigora. Meta the Kerang Tausa Kanga Chigri Sigora, Chami Sigora.
No.
Dark chicks. Rawajas look as Limba. Pumbule Tenshaba. Pumbule Kagaga, Sobo Bed, Soboda, Dani with the 1.7 and she tapan and she Kagare. This Yora. Narazene Pumbungan, Tush and Delne, Dasha Gurot and Tama. Kotendeke Shake Mara, Pumbu repair over. Dade, Kasikashi Sheswa, Dade Nalo, Sobi Nalo, or the Sari Shake, Nangita says. Sanko Dade, Pumbu Kagare, Pumbu Kechiki, Joachigata, Joachig Marcuni Kagare. Rawan Jessica, that's Rawan Jessica. The Chiriba to Shagura, Takbari, Chiguri, Rawan,
it's not the case that refuting one, you refute all. It's if we take a look at what permanent, unitary, and independent mean, it's here permanent means not changing. We have the idea that things change from one moment to the next, but once it doesn't change from one moment to the next, it's permanent. I think static maybe is a word that's more evocative in this context for sure. So then unitary means partless, and when we're talking about permanent as being unchanging, we're talking about the self. In the non-Buddhist philosophers, they say, "Oh, okay, the body and mind are constantly changing, but the self is unchanging." So then the self here is also unitary. The unitary means that it's partless, and it's like the idea that there's a non-Buddhist philosophy that where the self sort of pervades everything. This is a partless self that what is it? I think it was translated here as omnipresent, was it? Omni something, anyway. I don't know if it's omnipresent, but it pervades everything, and everywhere, everyone, and everything. That's the self, okay, and it's partless. Okay, and then independent here is like I was saying the other day, that it means categorically different. It's just something that the five aggregates, the body and mind, are one thing, and the self is something totally categorically different, just like blue and yellow. So then you have various non-Buddhist philosophers putting forward a philosophy based on a self that's like that, and that's not at all affected by the body and the mind.
Oh yeah. Then nangbakke oti mare ta kechi bimida bare. Ta chajere. Ta da pungbung o chikba tende mare o chikbare.
So then Buddhists counter these three characteristics of a self. They say no, that the self is constantly changing. It's not static, and that it has parts, and also that it's wo cheeks. It's wo cheeks and the doctor wo cheeks.
Da pungbung o chikba.
Wo cheeks.
That one seven nation yo mare. Pungbung abade pasha na da rang jetu bishira yo mare. Sobu pasha, sem pasha, chwa pasha, sobu pasha, sem pasha. And daji loga yo na. Konju se dembarwa. Sobu da sem pasha ne daji yo mare. Sobu da semla. Then takbe dasha gura.
So that they say that the self, the Buddhists then counter this idea of an independent self by saying that the self is, this one idea, the self and the aggregates are inextricably related, or they're one. I don't know if we want to say they're one entity, but they're of the same nature or something like that. You could maybe say like that. So then it's they're in the Buddhist viewpoint. Then there isn't this totally separate, self-sufficient, substantially existent in the sense of being self-sufficient self that stands separately from the five aggregates. That the self is imputed dependent upon these five aggregates. If it were the case that they were somehow not dependent on these five aggregates, the self wasn't dependent upon the five aggregates, then if you separated out each one of the five aggregates and we'll just say body and mind, if you separate out the body, separate out the mind, then the self should be left, but there's no self there, so we have to say that the self and the five and the body and mind are inextricably, related. So then it drew a shendat yang.
Yeah.
tamachi. Yeah. So then we'll go on to the next question. The third of the four attributes of true dukkha is emptiness, which in the view common to all Buddhist schools means the lack of a permanent, unitary, and independent self. This is said to counteract holding the body, which is foul, as pure. Please huh? This is from Venerable Chudran.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So this is said to counteract holding the body, which is foul, as pure. Please explain how it counteracts this wrong view. It isn't as obvious as the understanding of impermanence counteracting the view, seeing what is impermanent as permanent. Did because Dungal Dembe Kechu Shi Yode Dinang ne Dongwa Yode Dongwa. Then they Dongwa did because Dachi Rawan Chenki Dakti Yoma Res Dongwa Res Sungi Yode. Then it Yang de Yang because Chinchi Logi Lochi Yang Gagi Yode because Michang Wala Zangwa Zimbe Lo di Gagi Yode. Then it didn't need to draw a country, so you did self around Made because the Midakwa gone, but then in the because Midakwa la Dakwa Zimbe Lo di Gagi they did Le Labo Shagi Semla Shagi they did because the Dachi Rawan Chingi Dak Gapa Jane the Michangwa the because Michangwa la Zangwa Zimbe Lo di Gagi Ode di Kandre so you do.
Tadinyo the Mongoshe Congreta, Midabas, Tindu Shemocher, Dunga Shemocher, Don the Dame by Nisigua, Don the Dame Base. Don said they could Punguda Tinica Soda, Mo Tadeva. Punguyora Sobo, so I'm the Shin number Shibayora. Oh, did I more Tadeve Tombotisere? Ramave Tade, Ramine Tribetade, and a Punguda, more Tades in your Maresicora.
So then, in the third one, the emptiness is really refuting the idea of that that there's this self that is a different entity than the five aggregates. No tade, pumbo dam tang dakte.
No tade. Tandako tangazu suji pumbul chasha ani shenda lela medu pumbunga yora. Pumbunga yora. O pumbunga de da ta nyebide rawa ve ta nyebide de mare sigara. Pumbunga be logache. Ene ta de logache tade ton res gora.
No, so it's empty of yes, of being, standing as a different entity from all the five aggregates. You have the five aggregates as one thing, and this self over here is a separate thing that's a totally different entity, but it's empty of existing as its own entity.
O sobude ta mare, semde ta mare, choa da mare se, da pumbu chikdu yo mare se gora. Pumbu nga bude, da me ba inde rawe ta ge ngor ma du bechir se do. Pumbu nga bude, ta ge ngor tu yo ma de da mare, chik mare se gora. 풍부다 다 니디 찍 말해서 와라. 그 찍인데 다 라마에 다디 풍부를 라마에 다요 말해서 와라. 라마에 다디 요네 풍부다 야네 찍도 요 그래. 야네 타데도 요 그래. 찍다 타데 강도 매배 칠수기 와래.
네. 네.
그 주센시기 와래. 찍도 되지 다세야 돼.
네.
풍부 추진 결 라마에 다 매데 라마에 다다 그 찍다 타데 강도 마주배 칠수기 와라. 찍도 좀나 풍부하게 다래 그래서 거라. 라마에 타데도 여배네 그 풍부다 다니 부대 배데 ngombu sebu ne shita pala ne shi yo kore kide yo mare sigora ke sonza ta pungula rawo ve ta yo mare sigora tongo da me ba ni bude jusen she ge ora ta pa jusen she ge ora da me ba rawo ve da me ba te chupcha re
na ne
pungbu chu chi kyole rawo ve da me de ne rawo ve ta kyo da chik do me rawo ve ta kyo da ta de do me be che sigora
because Thabkhe pumbu
풍부 최전시 풍부 시제
풍부 시제
조슈아 요사디 링부 잡주비디 최전시 거라 아니 마 삼자 라오에 조슈아디 요 말에서 거라 소보다 직전에 요 말에 소보다 백화가 전에 요 말에서 거라
네
Josh, this important something. It just stopped.
What stopped?
Well, just stopped and I pressed it. You want to leave this page, stay on this page. Did you stop the what you call it?
Huh? Yeah, leave this page or stay on this page. No, it's just, I don't know, maybe it's been on a long time or something.
Well, I don't know. But
And then it asked you.
I'm getting nervous.
No, don't be nervous. It's still going.
If they're still seeing it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's.
Well, it's not, tell them
Give
to
us a
call
call. Give us a call if you're not.
Give us a call. I mean, it's just I looked up and then because I'm typing and then I looked up and I got it.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I hope you can hear, but Diane is doubting because there was a prompt on the computer. But anyway, let us know if you can't hear. Give Diane a call. But then you can't hear me saying that if you can't hear anyway. So I don't know. They might call.
Tell them it's broadcast. I can see this volume.
No,
Okay, but anyway, what Gunnar is saying, if we take these four attributes, then, and we don't have to explain the first two attributes of impermanence and suffering. The third and the fourth are related in that they are reasons establishing that there is no independent self. There is no, what do you say? Yeah, the wrong one, that idea of there is no independent self. And it's, the first one is refuting this independent self by eliminating the idea that this self is totally separate from the five aggregates. There's this idea that we just went through, where the self is a different entity from the five aggregates, as different as blue and yellow, and so then the second, the fourth attribute of selflessness is talking about if you make a what do you say? Syllogism.
What is the fourth one called?
Huh? What?
What is the fourth one called? You've got
Selflessness.
self.
Yeah. Then, or selfless, I guess. Don't have to put the ness on it. But then, so if you make a syllogism out of it, it's the aggregates are empty of a independent self because of neither being self-identical or diverse. And so this third attribute is eliminating the idea of a self as being of the aggregates, having a self that's what do you say? Diverse, and that
Is it what?
diverse or different, or however you want to put it. And then the fourth one is eliminating the idea of self-identical. The reason I like the words self-identical and diverse is the idea is one or many. You're using the reasoning of one or many. To say one, we have to say self-identical. And then many is diverse. So it's not diverse. That's the third attribute eliminates that. And then the fourth attribute eliminates that it's self-identical, that you're looking for, you're analyzing the five aggregates and going through each one and saying, is this the self, is this the self? And then you can't, is the form the self, is the feelings the self, is the discriminations the self, is the compositional factors the self, is the conscience the self, and then, so you're totally eliminating all of those, and then coming up that it's empty of being, you're eliminating the idea that the self is, the self, I guess we say, is self-identical. Okay, so then, so this I completely, what do you say, refutes the idea that the self is independent, or that the aggregates have an independent self.
This one. Yeah. Then this age do consider. Mitaba Tungawa Misawa Sera. Some thought to change the tomba sigora. Some thought to change the tomba.
Geshe?
Geshe.
Oh, Geshe.
Oh, yeah, Joshua.
Some Geshe. Geshe.
Geshe tomba. That is this sigora. Oh, Chidan Pumbuti Misawa Shagora.
No.
Suji Pumbuti Misawa Shagora.
No.
Misawa Sound Simba Sigora. No. Oh, teach the Tina Nene, Chiruba Transon to Zoge, Pumbuti, Koranzi, Pumbuti, Sanshu Sigore. Shenle Tramsin Nam some days. Rishanda to the Mabure, like what Changu or Maratusharis. Tramsit the Sangshuris or Tramsit Pumbuti Sangshuris. Then Tramsit out the Sangmare Sigore. Oh, did that time you got Yamdo Chani Shagora. Oh, the Pumbuti Chidam Misawares. Misawa say Mabudi was Shagdoa. Chidam Misawares Sigora. At the end, Tramsit to Pumbu Misawa, Tramsit Metos of Pumbu Pet Sangmare, Tramsit Sangmare, Shenle, Sangshutiri, Shandatozo. Rigma to Zobare Sigora. Oh, the Indizako. So that the Shegiona, Pumputin Mizan, Tramsi in and Shenda Mixu in and Kiran Sobo, Chibari, Shata, Ribada, Chada, Chusida, Kumada, Levada, Mizan is some song in the Sigora. Pumputin Mizan, Sigora. That's some of that the Shegi Tramsi, the Tadi Sangmachi condition Grioma, Sigora. So I thought to shake Tombas, Tingam do China Shepherd, and you taking don't want to say it. So I thought to shake Tombas. Pumbu Mizan Rese. Tramsi Pumbina Mizambare, Kangi Pumbu Mizan Resigora. Oh, Dineta, Pumbu Mizan, and Pumbule Tenshembe, Bekaga in get some thought and shake Yoma Reser. Tombacha do some thought and shake Tombas, Chachi Shake. You get taken down to the New Yoma Reset.
This idea of then of what was it used, pure and impure, or I think there's a different foul and pure. So the way that idea of foul and pure comes into this meditation is that the aggregates are empty of a what do you say, pure self that's separate from the five, that's are empty of a pure self because of not being separate from the five aggregates, or categorically different from the five aggregates. The idea comes about amongst non-Buddhist philosophers that in the caste system where the Brahmins are considered to be pure, and men and women are the purest, okay, and so they see themselves as pure in respect to the other castes, which are low, low castes. So then, and then low castes can't touch them and so forth. So then, and so this is countering that idea. It's saying that they're empty of a pure self. That you have to, basically the Buddhists are saying, well, look, your five aggregates are just as, the same as everybody else's five aggregates, and then it's got blood and sinew and all these impure substances and excrement and so forth. These impure substances are in everybody's body and mind, and then in everyone's aggregates, you can say, and then. And so how could there be some kind of pure self that exists separately from the five aggregates? And so they're refuting this idea of a categorically different pure self.
This one. Oh, then it occurs. Oh, this one's a Pumbu Midabalia, Tapan Zimbasiwara. Midabala Tapan Zingioris and Aranzu Sigora. Midabare, and Aranzu Tapan Zingioris. Aranzu Tapan Zimbanashi Mari, Midabare, Pagwaki, Midabamusum to Sigor, Titambare Sigora. Manzi Tapan Zimbademba Mari Sigora. And in Aranzu Pumbu Tevan Zingiore, Teveran Shinch. Tevan Junior, Tungi Studios. And it Tungi Tevan Zimbasido. Misawana Zawan Zimbasi, Tire. Pumbu Misawa Seta, Subu de Chana, Misawan Zawan Zimbasi. Shenako, Pumbu Nagadi, Shenlo, Kutungi Ranshiki, Tungi Ranshiki Sonza, Shemba Lobeshire, Shemba Jessa, Shenlo Chesser, oh, Yapumindu Seris. Narazu to what's always not one, they are women do cigar. Shemba Loba. Shemba Lobeshi, but Quatungi Ranshi Sonza. Misaware, Yagakanga Chase do it, and it Tungi Ranshi, and it could. Shenja Chekwe Shere Mendo, Shemba Logbe and Shinchan Sosa, Misawa stage of your.
No.
This one.
If you then if you relate it to the other attributes, then the attribute of impermanence counters the idea that holding what is impermanent to be permanent, and then the attribute of suffering counters holding what is suffering to be pleasurable, and what gives rise to suffering is pleasurable. Then this third one then is where the holding the what is foul to be pure, and so then foul here is coming into the idea that the body is what the aggregates are really an object of our for Shambhala Lokma it means like disgust, really, and you just turn away in disgust.
Shenja, shenja, you don't show the shemba loba. I wish him this, I want to do some.
Yeah, just, somebody said, oh, this is really good, but if you say, somebody said, oh, that's terrible, and, they turn away, and it's like disgust. So disgust is, and it's based on this idea of, well, it's impermanent, it's it gives rise to suffering, so then, how is it like, something pure, like that, and that's the idea.
This one.
No.
On the way.
Now, I don't think there are any more, right? Adrisa.
This one.
Imada. Nade.
Only
Isn't
30,
that
but don't
wonderful?
mess.
They ask some questions, God bless them.
Yeah. True Yaba Junsa.
They
Adrisa.
heard they're not staying as clay.
Yeah.
Been doing.
That's it.
This one.
Casa Diana de Midza, Casa Gena de Midza Nanshan Dana, then a Kacha Casa Driva Madrina de Yabam. And it comes to Driva Yabam. Diana comes to the email she done with that Driva Dris.
They're shy. They think they're interrupting. They don't understand.
They're concerned what's that jiggy or what?
Oh, man. Yeah. They are good. Don't do so. Don't go in the test labga. Oh, they don't go to in that sense.
Okay, so now we'll begin the lesson, today's lesson.
Yeah. Kange tuzi nyesune tawa tamje pangbeche tambeche ne tenje be kodam delo cha chelo. Oh ya imbeche. Tanga zo bodi tirito se lave shamba tuzu kan tu ke yomara. Di Joshua di. Oh dia gombulu duke so. Shirap kya bale se ro. Tongda ma do yenden di se shi do. Kunji tsawa shirap yin se. Dedar niga trube shir shirab yonsu songar chaas. Ne chönor dödan tarbaye june chimbu ripaye se. Dedar tangbo gyubaye shirab yumcho songar chaas. Oh, she songbare este chilata.
In the great treatise on the second volume, page 212, there's two verses from Nagarjuna's 100 verses on wisdom, where it says, wisdom is the root of all good qualities, seen and not yet seen. To achieve both of these, embrace wisdom. The great source for what you seek and for liberation is knowledge. So, esteeming it from the start, adhere to wisdom, the great mother.
Oh, yeah. Jigdenda Duswa.
Duswa.
Oh, Jigdenda Devasinanda. Tadang Wisum to Tundu Yobata. And the Maobana Jundu Yobe, you and Desinanda. Tongdam Maton, you and then Desigua. And that's sometimes it's our day. Shirableton Yongo, the no, we should have been say. That nigger trubishers, that you and then the nigger truberchevedo. Tambo any shirab de Kiave. Shirab Yonsu sing a tapsiche with the Songodoa. Oh, teach it.
No, so then where it says wisdom is the root of all good qualities seen and not yet seen is talking about all good qualities, whether mundane or super mundane. To achieve either or both of these, you have to develop wisdom.
Yes, and it's channel dead and tarba is the way. Channel dead and tarba is the way. Oh, did that, then you better that. Cheda, nor, deba, tarba, any june de carriers and it is a kangan junsa shitty, any sheriff de Resigora. At the Denera, the Dar Tambo Kubaye, Shirab Yuncho Sumacha, Tambo, Kushab Chimbeko, Tabachene, Shirab Kia, Tablia, Yende Tamjan Junior Matabu, Yumdabu, Amatabu, Shirab Junior Tablan Bear,
The great source for what you seek here means like whatever dharma, or whether it's dharma or wealth, and for liberation is knowledge. Knowledge here means wisdom, and so esteeming it from the start means that in a respectful manner, right from beginning to study, adhere to wisdom, the great mother, as the wisdom's the great source for everything. That's a great mother. Then adhere to wisdom here means make great effort to develop wisdom.
Oh yeah. Oh, the channel did not tarba Yeshe. The punzo dishi sigra nam dimaza.
Oh, that.
Kusum soba shi sigra. Oh, they got a church to shirab letene and Sanjaki church tarwala soba, church and javala soba timbura. Church said there. Church Sanjaki church, Tambe church, Mazo. Chushek doat and the Sanjaki church tarwatia. Shirablatene target was chairs. Nor longes, nor longe chambula soba. Tende yoyatian, doing chamber yoya. Lumber pusum soba, saya, Toya, Koya Kanga, Namdu Moda Kanga, Yuva to Sigara. Pusum soba yoyatia, Shirabla Legora. And Diana, so tati, Rojala soba, saya to longe babo, longe Yuvatia, Shirabla Legora. And Shule Tebache, Sambache, Tarvada, Nesungu Tumele Tar, Koya Tumele Tar, Sanji Koma to the Yobatia, Shirabla Legores. That Chur nor Deva, Tarva Shigadi, Shirablatani to Gugres, Shirab Kitchen.
So then when it says all good quality. Oh, here, no. When it says the great source for what you seek and for liberation, what you seek is included into that is this, the idea of the sacred dharma, all the goals that are, included in that, whether it's to seek a fortunate rebirth or liberation or the high state of Buddhahood and omniscience, that and then also and so it mentions also liberation here, but and also just ordinary things like wealth, and included in that is the objects of your senses, whatever resources, resources that are, our the sensory objects that we have to pursue, then, and also for making, for creating any resources here, like cars and buildings and so forth. All of that requires wisdom.
This one. Oh yeah, that shirabsena ko takbar chaya ngobu to solya. Ani chura do number jebar chibe. Shibatele shirabsigi wara.
What about that? So so when we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about it's really analytical wisdom. You have a object that you are analyzing, and then you use discernment to analyze that. So that's so sometimes we say discerning wisdom.
Oh yeah, they go dole. Chanju samba chimbo shirab di paru du chimbala sambar chao se. Sungege shirab di karesne. Ane ribe nenga la soba o te shirab liya. Changure sumbare se gore.
Then for the bodhisattvas, then to it said that you have to practice the perfection of wisdom. Then for the Bodhisattva, that includes the practices that are, it includes the 5 topics of knowledge.
Oh yeah, that's chidan shirab loko kunsum tokpe shirab sero. Rwa, ane tendam tokpe shirab se. Simjengi tuen chawa tokpe shirab sero. Oh, da kunsum tokpe shirab se. Da ripe ne ngala soba rwa. Tendam tokpe shirab tokpa tongbani tokpe shirab se. Simjengi tuen chawa tokpe shirab se rwa. Simjengi tuen chawa tokpe shirab se na. Simjengi tsende da. There are 3
divisions of wisdom. The wisdom that knows the ultimate, wisdom that knows the conventional, and wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of living beings. Here the wisdom that knows the ultimate is knowing emptiness. Wisdom that knows the conventional is the 5 topics of knowledge. Then the wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of living beings is providing providing for the happiness of living beings, both in this life and in future lives.
This one. Oh, the Indico, Mazukasore, Janju Semba. Satoba Karsure, Satoba, the new Satode. Shira repeating a lobetico, Chajusemba, Satombo Lemne, local yora, San Gageba, the local yora. Oh,
the Bodhisattvas, until they reach the higher, right through the higher levels of the Bodhisattva path, they have to cultivate this. These 5 topics of knowledge.
Oh yeah, the Karko changes in Batazukia, sorry, but a local Sungua. Kare sorry, but Simjang Kogo can be Chedo, sorry, but Logura. Saya, Tuye, Sadan Chik Simje, could Longe man at the Wayungumara, Kangengura. Longe Jani Chin and Jun Kinesigua. Longe Diana, Simjang, Kangame send the message. So what in Dalia, sorry, but a local Songua. Did you not bet our chinical sorry, but a lawyer to the Chanjusimba and Yamni Churnal, Yorgo Yora. Some which any children do Simjangi Koko Kango, Samje, Janet, Churli Kurgora, Jangaras and Nambachin Bechanina, go so rich in a legacy Yanea. Legacy and Gala Chanjusimba Yosevere. Maras and Chanjusimba, the last day and get you come get together. Chibuli Sammy Timara, Chanjusimba the same sandwich and the Simjang turned to Yelia, Simjangi Chizon and Don turned to Bura. Zako Simjangi telling an empty Tabashi, larger Lingi or some Pesharatos, Jedusani, that's some teeth on that Yanjamara, Maranzukumuchana, Mille Pensimche, Goku Kayat and Dalaga Legacy some medical which Chona Samche, teaching children to her, changes to be children to her. So sorry, but sorry, but millionaire never, never so whatever, do my imba chua capichedo, male love songua. And it's singular trip upon Bechedo, Sig Gay Lavia to the love songora. Down a trip upon Bechedo, Ribatia love songora, and the Ribatia, sometimes Ribatia. Ribati man and number Jeshin Marwa. Any now do Ribataco, so simply do it to Tabatan Jackie, which the local girl. Just what the Chanjusimba local race on Godoa.
So the Bodhisattvas then have to learn these 5 topics of knowledge, and we might think of Bodhisattvas as just always in meditation, thinking about the Dharma, but that's not the case. They're constantly doing what actively doing what is helpful to make other living beings and make all living beings happy. So then here the knowledge of the arts really means to create things. And so they need to have some knowledge to be able to craft. I think sometimes instead of arts, people put crafts. It's to create whatever it is that will provide for the happiness of living beings. And then and so then they have to know medicine so that living beings don't suffer from illnesses, and so all of this that they're working. We think of working to earn money, but they're doing it from the what do you say, kind feeling. I think it's maybe a good, they have, just out of their kindness, they're doing whatever they can to be of benefit to others. They're motivated by this kindness, and so then, or warm-heartedness, or however you'd like to think of that. But it literally means good thought, but that's maybe doesn't work. So then. And also grammar is a topic of knowledge, so that when they speak, they don't, make a lot of errors. And so, and then logic is also a topic of knowledge, so that they have a, a sharp acumen, so that they're not making mistakes in the way they're thinking. So and then. Buddhist.
What was that? What was that?
That one was logic. Yeah.
Oh, logic.
Yeah. And then the fifth one, what?
Logic.
Logic is one of them, and then grammar and logic.
Logic, so they're sharp and understand.
Yeah, they have they develop their rikpa, means like their acumen or something like that. They have a sharp acumen, so they're not making mistakes in the way that they think, and then pursuing Buddhist knowledge is the fifth one, so that they're, what do you say, disciplining their minds, whether it's to attain, to attain liberation or omniscience, and then that. What was I going to say? When they're so that you have to think of bodhisattvas as always they're out in human society, working for others with a kind heart. You could say like.
Oh, they should have deco. Chimbatawina. Chimba Kandis Tangure, Tangu Carrere, Chimba Sudim Sungogina, Sava Comgoyana, Chinda Sudus, Sundulus of Samal Sigora. Oh, Tesulia, and a Shirabi, some lieutenant Tangi, Shirabi Cheba Abu Cheche, and a Chimba Sudin Savalus over, Tendel Jugure Sungora. Tin Juba in Tesulia, Migneva Dandaris, Migdandra Dugres, Chinso Italia. When the
bodhisattva engages in generosity or ethical discipline or patience or what do you say, joyous perseverance, all of any of the six perfections, then they're engaging in them with wisdom. If they engage with, if they bring wisdom into these five perfections, then it makes it go very well. It makes it special. So there's a verse here that expresses that.
Well, this one do penna special so do. Remove kebachi, remove yabu, magic remove yabu shivishti, right? Kunde of Sanje Kuinaka, magic remove yabu shivishti. And it make the Madina and a koshira 디 이제 야부 통구 말했어요. 미래 고구 말했어요. 와라. 다 미디 디나시 짐바 수는 서발서 버터달래. 시럽기 야부 상로 따네. 텐데 조왕의시 주카르 고도 카 텐데 티리체고 시럽된 담배나 이네티 리무딜 미그티바나시. 미그티네 리무디 야부 코바나시. 어테네 고 미그단 담바시 조르게 해송고다. 텐데 tiba chisu chebchido tiba chisu chebchido kanze shirabkene yonsu singyor nase dese mingi gyurchi de mingto bosido pena remu lene sechmido yonsu singyor mig meba dese mingma tiba ngemba metoshin se dichilona.
The verse then says, when the other perfections are completed by wisdom, they acquire their eye and fulfill their name. Just as a painting may be complete except for the eyes, but until the eyes are drawn, no wage is obtained. So the idea is that when you bring wisdom, that's page 212 in volume 2, sorry. That's out of the, this is out of the verse summary of the perfection of wisdom in 8,000 lines. And so it's saying that it's like completing the painting. That without the eyes, the painting can't be complete. So when you put the eyes in, it's like adding wisdom to each of the each of the 5 perfections, that when when you use your wisdom, and sometimes people use intelligence, use the word intelligence or discerning awareness. There's many different translations, but when you use that wisdom to understand what it is that has to be done, then those perfections go well.
This way. Oh yeah, that yende shenda kari ne tesul khorju bese shireb takje she yabu che takje chene juku gresi gora. Ite juku ine ne nubadan demba tudan demba lega de kari ne de jawade rupto gresi gora. Oh tene penase de pechan shegdo. Sergi genjen de bichi söje ko yakbu söyuna ko ser repüda gorina. Ine tele cha jembuchi cha duzu tesuna ene pe yidongwa mikanga ge yidongwa da pe pyusun soba gyurgirese. O tinashi gyurgirese guda. De chigchi do ade. Parjin tiban doge. Oh yeah. 진소 남반 대단히 실험 건다 제베 tundihen gyursigdo. Sergi genjo 남반 나서라 렌진 차고 의지 세워신세. 디질로나.
Another verse here from Aryadava's compendium of the perfection says, the merits of generosity and so forth are more powerful with wisdom as their Lord, just with wisdom as the merits of generosity and so forth are more powerful with wisdom as their Lord, just as an array of fine gold jewelry shines more brightly when inset with jewels. So the idea is that when you add this ability to analyze and discriminate and discern what needs to be done or not done, then it makes that whether that perfection, whatever that perfection might be, ethical discipline or generosity and so forth, it makes it more powerful, and also makes it proper, or that it is engaged in properly.
Shirabdan Dambayina Sigurdo. Oh, Tenico Shandagachi, Condrula, and Ravichi Tindegi, Nezuma Buchon in a cosert of good Sigara.
Somebody who has wisdom can, can, what do you say, can bear the anger or the harm of somebody. It makes patience possible.
No, yeah. Penanga langbuche duldega te korwa. Tematase tinde langchi tu sematsigdwa. Te langbuche yabun dude yene ko kari chesne ko ta chetu gure. Ko kale yo mare sura. Ko ma de se ya la se chik dramen de kanga chigdo min shi chetu gdo. Langchi tu ko. So ko te chebe de ko setu gure se gyara. Cha mene ne setu maro ko pandos ne suyo. 동해 세년가 요라 고서 저저 그 시럽단 덴베 내가 내 주변에 강가 짐도 요 말에 서바다 가리 내려가 나부터 투브레스 것도 뒤측들람이 오도 파진 되가래 누게
네
진소 남반 되다니 누에 시럽 근다 제베 딘디 사마라 단다 데르다 시럽 대한라 내바다스 누게 라서 시럽 대한라 내바다스 다소 담아서
네
데데 도 가서 쉽게 숨지 소주래도 그래서 실험 되는 내봤다 세배 연된 예배 내면 교르식도 세배 공약 그 실험이 상도 당신 비워resera 신도 되어 랑베 초안남라세 내게 개버나서 세바신스 너 신도 찍부지야 내외 교세 내외 교세도 남주단데 신도 찍부지야 내외 타스는 되기도 타만 야와 용그래 깔래 용그래 단단도 두 말세를 고만도 야 시럽 저기 있잖아 tension drops 시럽 그 상무 땡땡 뜨리다니 거 야보제 딱제 제네 에네 단다데 드로베네 단다 심부 강가 드롭도 그래세 데이팅도 시럽 캐시 무리소다 야
Then on the next page 214 there's another verse and a half from the compendium, Aryadava's compendium of the perfections, where he uses the example of a elephant. When we think about elephants and in a circus, a performing elephant, that they're able to, that they're very what do you say? Discipline, that they can perform just like a human being, to sit up and do a variety of different, perform a variety of different what we call tricks. Then this is because they have they have very discipline. They're disciplined in nature. If they weren't disciplined, they'd be running around trampling people and so forth. So then here the verse goes as follows: injury done to the wise is not harmful because they possess the good quality of patience, like the best of very tame elephants who are patient with many different tasks. Perseverance by itself ends in exhaustion. If aided by its ally wisdom, it achieves great purposes. So here, injury done to the wise is not harmful. If somebody is patient when what do you say? Uses wisdom when somebody is harming them. Then they're able to maintain their patience and forbearance of the harm, just like the elephants are very, what do you say, cooperative, maybe we could say in this case. But when they're doing the many different tasks that they're in the circus ring that they're being directed to do. So then, and it goes on to say perseverance. I think you're talking about effort, and which we translate as joyous perseverance. Perseverance by itself ends in exhaustion. Sort of the end of making a great deal of effort can just end in total exhaustion. If aided by its ally wisdom, it achieves great purposes.
This one. Oh, that did you say? That and that. Mundo Lami Koban Trupshita. Nearly Tarbata Tamja Chamber Trube Shadow, Tapshibe, Shirla Janko by Imbeasilwa. Oh, Target Simja Tamja to Sanji Koban Chinage Tobarcha. The Echedo, Sanji Koban to the top, Dongbani Tumbe, and Ishula Tubachini, should have gave her Chanyamdo, Gunu set on December shoes.
Then, so whether it's for the purpose of fortunate rebirth in our next lifetime, or for attaining liberation, or attaining Buddhahood, we should motivate ourselves to listen to these, to study or listen to these teachings, and also to think about them, reflect upon them, and combine that or imbue that with the altruistic spirit of bodhicitta, and so then we should set this kind of motivation for studying the text, for studying these teachings on emptiness.
Oh yeah, then you should look at Tangba.
That's it.
And then I'm said to say him. Rabji Chuniba, Sholoka Tambudi.
Oh, Tamba did. Mao.
Mabo Yunde. The Loga, this way.
Kasan Driso.
Oh, don't this.
Oh, no.
This one.
Yes.
They were singing my song. I don't do the matter. Yeah, doing better.
No.
Did Rosado, Mabu Yunde Namshendo, Minjul Nyambolayame. No, singing Sana, Mawabu Yunde, Sur Debatan, Savada, Masewa Trubada, Nyembe, Nyembu, Hagbe Samba Kondo, Chubada, Semla, Sansi, Mebaso, Tele, Namba Shendo, Kyondo Nawar Minjura, Yunde Konar, Nangla Asa, Nyamba Bola, Yundengi. Yunde Kyojing or Jura Minosa.
Oh, this shades are.
The
young, not a neighbor, the young.
Oh, and then Niba Seni Masawe Ministera.
The young shades are again at the Casa. Casa. Dungal Dembe Shigi Corla Sumberwa.
You go with it.
In the check out chinsa.
No.
The Casa neighbor, the picture check out chinsa.
I did it out there. Sit up the Rosara. Then the Oma did that. Jigday also Meshika, then it to best over Messetera.
No,
this one. Tosam Gombala, Mezumbe, Jigdemba Sigdoa. Jigday also Meshika, Tosam Gombala, Mezumbe, Jigdemba, any Rangi Mesheba Kaimbaso. Rangi Nurjit Seni, Matsawe, Mesheba Segura, Nesu Shingi Omara. Jigday also Meshika. Then it to best over Merse. Chita Washington Yonson Mesheba Kain, but in Esigua, or Tene Ranget Nurjit Seni Matsando, Dosur never the Leshel Tunjeva Lotan Demba Manor, and if I share it that they are which is Shingima Resugura. Yonson Mesheba Kain, but in to be shipped to Masunso, or that they Saber shed to Masun Sanjay, they call Sabaji Sum Medosam, Tobagatolia, Kondo Resugura, Shangan Tolia. Rangi Yabu Shirab Yabume, Yabu Salumata, Jimanya Beche, and it's Sabu Hamago, or the Sumba Buddha Sabu Shaman do Tikolia, Yabuchi Shemason, some good Hesica, Shangan Kiana Kogresora. Masumba, she never did Tobeta, number Shade Ese. The Jigday also Meshaka, then a Tobeta Brungun Sigua, or good tender Pajo Kiana somebody Eswara. There's some get number. Nombadan Demba Minde, Mulunge Maton Atini, Nimeke Mebashino. So Yabucha Machina, Sanja Chumden de Tembashi Colasona, Ranga Yabucha Machina, o sanje de sebaji abuji sumendo samsang go gyende tongi mare se gore shiro ne ki gyende abu chayo na ro ane range mashina de tembe gyenge mare se nima sha ne su sebaji de mi mena rang le mi mena tongi mare te madona ti nime gyenge mare rang le mi me be gyenge se gore ro ya
no
tijula
we ended we covered part of the second verse in the 12th chapter, so we're starting in the translation. It's kind of in the middle of this paragraph of commentary, but in the Tibetan it treats that as what we did yesterday was explain the first two lines, and now we're explaining the second two lines of the verse. So the second two lines of the verse say, what people do not understand is seen as the subduer's fault. So the commentary then starts at this one sentence that says, he taught the Four Noble Truths for those who seek liberation. But ordinary people who make no effort to hear, think, and meditate are unaware that they do not possess all the qualities of a suitable vessel. So we went through yesterday all the qualities of a suitable
What verse?
it's 277. It's the second verse of chapter 12.
Okay, so now you're doing what people do not understand is seen as the seducer's fault.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay, but where is the assertion?
Where is the commentary? It's in the middle there. It says, he taught the Four Noble Truths for those who seek liberation. It begins with that. And then, so they're unaware that they do not possess the qualities of a suitable vessel. So so then they're going to see faults and so then it says, whatever they fail to understand correctly, they see as the subduer's fault, saying he did not explain it in sufficient detail, and it wasn't very clear, and what was his problem with explaining it so that I could understand it and so forth. So, however, merely that does not mean the teacher is to blame. A blind person's inability to see is not the sun's fault.
This one. That's somebody da, somebody. Oh yeah, somebody. Tsoba pongala ni tuba kunjin do tuba da shenji temba tanna to temba che. Ta tuba kunjin do tuba telia sumdowa. To kun sunjimbe tongba ni temba la kawarik bada. Tembe tembele shendo tarwa mebesu. Tembe sumba shindo kojuchi. Tenzen sumdowa. Oh, te sumna ne ta tambu de shegyorda. Oh, tambu to kun sunjimbe tongba ni temba la kawarik ba se ti shegdo. Tunghe temba da debu tunghe temba. Kyu kunju temba de sunjimba tsawa ne pongji tongba ni temba de la kawarik ba re se. Ti tengdo tambu de.
Now, if you look in the outline, if you have the outline, that's on page 324. We're now talking about verse 278, and it's part of the third part of this difficulty of finding a listener with the prerequisite qualities, and so then it's got two parts, and the first part is a division of three. It has three divisions, and so the first part is called proving the subduer's omniscience, and so the first part is the appropriateness of being glad about the teaching of emptiness, which annihilates suffering and its sources.
This one.
No,
Oh yeah, tube standi sigura tuba yese ngonde tam namne che dönsewa yina sigura ngebarlebe tam tamje rangshin meba tönba ne rangi ngo sunjimbala shukbeshir kojage medoshi yi gubar mezedos tuba sanje chumdendege ngondol hada mi koban topjiki 탑숭바디 빼야부도 세부도 야부도 세 얘네 타르와토 겔레 탐지 타르와토 베체도 동반예지 땀tem바데 소소 셰바데 소소 메바 송게지 도체레 방금 메바 송게지 도세 디고 가르스레 슈베체레 코자게 먼저 하고만 송사 하고만 송사 이 고르면제도 셈 고아치 송마 송세레 산제 도바쿠요라 모두 라미 고반 톱지게 탑숨바도 페세보도 야본도 세 넬레 타바 토바스데 동반예세 강가랑군데 메랑군데 메세 소에도아 데다 강가 메바 송게 레 좀데다 타르바 강가 메바 송게 진도 세레 데가즈 셈 구부쇼마 송세레 셈 구마 송세 네
So, the assertion here is, although the subduer's discussion of high rebirth is extremely clear, that I don't know, we don't want to say he's exactly or he or she is exactly opponent, but the sort of what's the word here? The person's coming up with the following qualm, maybe, or complaint, really, in this case. Although the subduer's discussion of high rebirth is extremely clear, so this person really found that very good. We do not understand or approve of his discussion of definite goodness, since the teaching that everything is without inherent existence refutes the very nature of things. It's just like, oh, this is what, for us, it's very clear that everything seems to exist inherently. How can you refute it? It's just like you've totally negated a cause and effect and the existence of and the very existence of things. So not only do we not understand this, but this is really not a good thing to do. We'd kind of disapprove of this idea, this teaching.
No, yeah, tajimi. Mondo lami koma tupji de ko ha ko sebarwa. Rang dine shengi tsawa shena dunghe yongre. Rang la shengi pemba shena dewa yongdo. Rang na shin shenda so tsawa dewa dunghe yonggen re. Diendu rang ge ngone pa shena tsawa shena so shena dunghe yongre dunghe ma re sam dunghe da chande wa da. O pa shengi so kyobge ina. Ene ko shenla pemba yongre dewa yongre sam chamba da sebe semge. Dunghe da chande da dewa da chande ge sambe. 네 소소용에 룡아 예수님께서 시행을 처음하셔. 진유기 펜버 주세대 배야고도 하세요. 하고에도 펜도도 메시널이야. 먼저 제토부터 야고도 하세요. 세번도 하세요. 오래라 와가지고 제토나. 디지털다.
When it mentions the subduer's discussion of high rebirth being extremely clear, it's the person here is saying that the Buddha's teachings about how just as we want happiness and don't want suffering, others want, well, then if we really want happiness, then if we want to avoid suffering, then we avoid harming others and abstain from the 10 non-virtuous deeds, and then if we really want happiness, then we do what we can to protect and provide for others, and practice the 10 virtuous deeds. this is presented very clearly, and I can understand this, based on my understanding that just as I want happiness and don't want suffering, others want happiness and don't want suffering.
Oh yeah, this one.
No.
Da ngele tam desi tira. So tongba ni da dende she do tene ko ranga hako to biyo mara ko khagura. Ene tele tagbe shenje base chanju sem she so ne. Ngazu chemedum ge so rishira. Tagbe shenje ba ka che to biyo mara. O de de zan tezo kanga ngazu tanda che to biyo mendo asam ge wara. Yong to biyo mendo samte. Make it chubun shooting kawati te tagda de yabu do sam ge do. O te inde ko tende chisa de chita melia. So che tubju je shena. Ani ha ko lela bo cheche. Ti chudi ti yin sam je ne ko tagda chen ru ra. Ta de member mambu sabu shida shek de ne rang che tubgu ha marwa. Rang sem le kong de che tubgu ha marwa. O te yabu mendo sam ge do ke pendo mendo sam ge do. Abu shiv shene. Ti ngazu ti chi yore. Pebe ti shena de che. Nima pebe lama chi yore. Pebe tabachi lama chi yore ta. Tabachi yore. Ko ye pesha ta to sing yora. Ene kora chema isai gyoso, ishu gyoso. Ja. Ene ko chema chi ge kora zinde chik bachi yore. Nima ngoshin bachi yore ta. Ngoshin bachi yore kona shal dos tene to ne. O tanga ishu gyore keran kabu yiji mare sere. Nga kabu ye keran karchene keran shirnga kabu ye sere. Ene nima shin sere. Ene ngai nala shows ko nala dore. Nala dore ene Geshe she to keran ishu kande gyorso. Karasam ne gyore ba stire kora. Ene kosa nangba yakbu shida shaya dan dos sabu dan shida shaya dowa se. Ina nga zo che togu men dowa se. Ka che togu men dowa se re. Dane mangbu shida sabu do shida re de nga zo che togu men dowa se. Tile yakbu do kunzo shaya de. Kunjo liya deba che che kunjo kuchen dogu de samne pal lo ke che. Dane ti yakbu do ti che togu dowa se. O ti sonda nga ta nga ti kasa re samche. Akaza o ti na shire. Ti nga alle ti jilabda.
So this is easy to understand how the person could come to this feeling, because it's important to teach people according to what they can understand. If you take the Dharma and teach them according to what they can easily understand, then they have a feeling of confidence. Oh, now I can understand, avoiding the 10 non-virtuous deeds and cultivating the 10 virtuous deeds. This is something, this is the practice of the Dharma. And when you add something on top of, when you give them something that they can't understand, then it's natural for them to feel frustrated, and where, for instance, the teachings on emptiness are hard to understand, and then in addition to that, it's hard to understand how to exchange self and other. So these things seem like, impossible to do. So it's very similar to a story of, there's one monk, he's actually a lama who converted to Christianity, and then he was over visiting a friend's. He wanted to go visit an old friend, and he was a little hesitant. He was saying, "Is it okay if I come in?" And he said, and the old friend said, "Oh, why would you feel that? If you're happy doing what you're doing, then that makes me happy. So so come on in, and they sat down together, and then his friend then asked the Lama. He said, "Oh, how? What have you understood, and how is it that what is it that you've understood that has caused you to convert to Christianity?" And then he said, "Well, Buddhism has all these very difficult to difficult to understand and actualize teachings, like teachings on emptiness to attain liberation. Nobody can actually do those things. So all these things, nobody actually does. So then, when in Christianity, that you're just asked to be faithful in God, and then God will provide for you. I can do that, So then I found this very appealing, and so then this question is similar to the person in this. The questioner here, the one who has this assertion, is very similar to the feeling that Lama expressed. Yeah.
기부충을 랑게 되는 가래 제토구네 뒤치 속이어라. 기부충이 쳐서 당부 내 장하시기어라. 아니 현다서 장마도 나게요 말와. 몰람 잡아. 어디 야부도 마음 반응에 장기 인삼. 맨배 유전이 샤고를 했어요라. 네. 당부 메게와 주바 개와 주투베티 장나. 아니 렌도나로 산게 송도와. 아니 레 카르보 짱마찬데 처가리 때문에 겹쳐주네 시차래스고 미게와 주바 개와 주하고 툭툭소나 어때네 대절을 기분 정리 파시나 아니 그 빼하고 용도 배워라 정나저 담보 레드 까부 맵세 나보 소샤도와 네 소케요 되네 다카르서 따뜻 괜찮으셔야 시험 뭐지?
So, and actually, the way we present the teachings is present the teachings is that we have the practices for a person on the initial level, or a person of small capacity, and then you proceed to the practices of a person on the intermediate level, the person of medium capacity, and then the person of great capacity on the advanced level or the highest level. Then, but if we proceed through those, just going and we haven't completed the there's this teaching that explains that when you practice the it's okay then just to if you're starting at the initial level, then you're encouraged to practice that, and then if you can't go on to these higher levels of more higher levels of practice and more difficult practices, just to make aspirational prayers, to do that in the future, that's fine. You don't have to undertake those, but we have this tendency to just go right into these higher teachings, and it's said that you really have to practice the teachings, and the Buddha mentioned gave the analogy then of taking a piece of cloth and making it ready to take a dye, and so that you have to clean it really well so that it gets really what do you say, really white, and then I'm not familiar with dyeing, but that it gets really white is what I'm going to say, and then, or ready to take the dye, and then the dye will take very well. So you have to practice the initial levels, and until you get to that point before advancing to the later levels. But we have the tendency of not, getting that initial level so that, so that the cloth is very clear, is very white, and able to take the dye, so that when we go on to the next level, then it comes very correctly or easily.
Oh yeah, Sanjay Rimba Mambuchi song you do somebody Chetu Maroko. Some Chetum Nadena Namsa Sanjay.
We're not going to be able to do all the practices all at once, and then if that were the case, then we'd all be, in the first moment practicing, in the second moment we'll all be Buddhas. Yeah.
Ko kare cheto ba de che ore song yora ma ba le yong de che ma do tanda membe yu to che se o nge ma ba na te cheto ba sho se e tanda ne ko kibu chung yi na ya o simje tamje ge tu tung ge kibu kyong ko se yun de kun de kibu che cha na ya bu do a sam tin de jing yure ge tanda le nge ti chi yu sam chang ju sem de tin de tanda ne ko chini kan yu sam de tang ge yora che ma ma yin ba ngone de yong tu gu ma rwa ina ko til pa sha sha tanda le 기부 첨부를 박차샤 기분 중에 박차샤 누바샤에 돈달이야 조기어라 제가 소소 강은 냠리 제토바데 제 아니 제 매도바도 좀 매매요도 제서 마음바는 같은 데 제토바쇼 근데 제토바치기야 삼제 아니 단다티네 딜라베요라 나주 랍단도나 마음바는가 이미지지 케바 시부지 제제 제고서면 진짜 당불이야 ABCD 장기로가 어디 내시고 미유리 샤쇼라 어딘데 삼는 당구마도 어디 망보 셰샤서 단지게 되체.
So when you're practicing the initial level of the practices that are shared with a person of small capacity, then at that point, you're doing what you have to practice what you're able to do, and so then when you practice those, then you have in mind, you have this you're aspiring to achieve to attain certain goodness of liberation and omniscience. And then if you aspire to, if you set those in an aspirational way, then those practices become, then you can set a a strong inclination to do those practices in the future. But so you're setting them as objects of your aspiration, and then focusing on those practices that you can that you feel able to do. So this is a good place to stop the lesson.